Okay, so YouTube should be able to hear me. Facebook should be able to hear me. I think so. I'm pretty sure they can. So if you can't hear me, comment in the comment section. Now the monitor's going to go crazy. We had some new microphone setup issues that we just kind of worked through everything. So I think everything sounds a little better now. Knew I had to dial it in. I used it earlier, but it's the first we really... Oh, really? Really? That's great news. I better shut off this audio here before it goes crazy. Yep, there it is. Looks like we're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. And just get my phone out of the way. Oh, look at that. All right, so everybody, good evening. Welcome to another exciting edition of the PPD Zoom webinar room. This is Clyde. I'm here with Robert. He's going to banter with me all night long to keep me on my toes because, you know, that's what he does. But teaching xLights, that's what I like to do. No, wait.
It's on the webcam. Amazing.
There we go. All right, so we've got good confirmation that everybody can hear pretty good. We're going to go ahead and get started. So tonight we have something. We're continuing down the road of a little bit of mapping. We did a intro to mapping session a couple months ago, about a month and a half ago, yes. And it was very well received. There was a lot of people in the room that night. Just like tonight, there's a lot of people in here tonight. So welcome to everybody who's in the Zoom room. If you want to join in, jump in the Zoom room. There is a link in both the, there should be one, there might be one in the Facebook group on the Facebook thing, but on YouTube, I definitely have one on the, you have to click the link down below to find more information, and you'll get a link into the Zoom room. So if you jump in the Zoom room, we'll do an open Q&A at the end of the session. If you have any questions, by all means, you can bring them up. But what I want to show tonight is I want to get started with not how to map, but because we've already kind of covered the basics to getting started to how to map. But I want to cover one important thing, and that one important thing is exactly how do you navigate the mapping dialog box. So there's a lot of things, and especially considering that xLights just had a release yesterday, which is I believe it's 2023.16, and I gave it an update. I usually don't update this late in the season, but I wanted to see, just because yesterday we decided on what we're going to talk about tonight. And it's crazy because there's a new addition into the dialog screen, the mapping dialog, that I think is going to be helpful for a lot of people, especially if you map your sequences and you know that the place that you're either purchasing from or the sequence that you're mapping out of has a very long list. You're going to find some nice little addition, a nice little addition that was just added in the most recent version. So I haven't played with 2023.16 just yet, other than just seeing it today. I don't think I had any crashes or anything, so I can't say it's certifiable. It's the perfect release to run your show with, but I know that I ran on .15 or .14 and 15, and those seem to be pretty stable. So there's that. We'll go ahead and get started. If you have comments, I'm trying to watch the comments, so go ahead and post up if you have comments, either YouTube or Facebook. I have you both open so that I can keep an eye on everything. I need to get rid of this screen, and I need to go back and find Zoom and share screen. We're going to go to right here. Put this here so I can see all of your shining faces, and open up the chat window. So if you have a chat, if you have a question, go ahead and throw it in chat. I'll try to monitor chat as well. Rob will probably pop in and let me know whenever somebody has one if I'm not paying attention to it. And now I see me on Facebook. There we go. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. As far as you can see, we've got the most recent version of xLights open, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new sequence, and it doesn't matter. I'm just going to use an animation for now. I'm going to go with 20 frames per second and click done. That's the basic start to starting and opening up at a sequence to begin with. When you're mapping sequences, I always highly recommend that you save the sequence as soon as you create it. And the reason I say this is because if you should happen to have a crash or anything should happen, what tends to happen is that you have to start over from scratch. If you just pop open xLights, you just open up the sequence and continue on as you had done before. So that's I always find it's helpful to go ahead and hit the save button and save it. We'll just call this delete me so that I delete it later. But in any event, there's no MP3 in here. You can imagine that if you did have a sequence, the first step would be to obviously to start with your MP3. Again, this video is more pointed towards the import screen and the import dialog. So what we'll do is we'll go into import and import effects, and I'm going to steal from something I did. I don't know. I'm going to go back in time and say, how about back in 2021? We'll do Panic at the Disco. I am choosing a song that I did in my home layout because of the new edition that's in xLights, and you'll see that here in just a moment. But this is your mapping dialog, and the goal is not to teach you every secret about mapping, but to walk through this dialog screen, because I don't know that I've ever actually done the entire dialog screen period. So with that being said, we'll start at the top. Obviously it says map channels. This is the map channels dialog, and then it gives you the name of the sequence that you're importing from. So obviously this is the name of the sequence. I just went ahead and opened it. And the first thing we see a couple checkboxes. And what are these? The first one is erase existing effects on imported models. Well, if you have already imported a sequence, if you're remapping or if you're continuing to map a sequence, you might find that as you map or import a sequence that you didn't like the last thing that you put on the list on the, let's say, the candy canes. You didn't like what you mapped over to the candy canes. They didn't look as good. Maybe you want to map the snowflakes over to the candy canes. What you can do is you can erase the effects and go find the one thing that you want to put on that thing. And let's say you want to put this onto your arches. You certainly can do that. And if you do that, if you redo the map, it will erase all the effects on the imported models, and it will replace them with the new effects that were found on that specific other model. So that's really a nice feature if you're trying to, without having to go back in and delete something that's in there. If you try to map something onto something that's already been mapped from before, if there's an open spot, xLights will fill in the open spot, but it won't delete out the effects that are in there natively. What you'll have to do is you'll have to delete them yourself, or you'll use that erase existing effects on imported model. Next is another checkbox. This is called lock effects upon import. And I have a feeling that the reason that this now exists, because this is a new function in xLights, is that when you run a check sequence, that would be tools check sequence over here on the top left of the screen. Usually, if your effects are not locked, you might get an error. And I want to say something. There might be some issues, or it might help if the effects are locked. It might allow them to render faster. Not sure if that's the case or not, but locking the effects helps you keep from accidentally bumping them and moving them around. And so xLights gives you that option now to lock effects upon import, which is kind of nice. If xLights has a tendency to get bumped around a little bit whenever you're navigating the sequence screen, and that's just something that does happen from time to time. Another checkbox that you see, and this is rather important. I remember the days before this was available. This is called import blend mode, and by default, sequencers have the option in xLights to either sequence with the model blend mode or blend model mode enabled or disabled. What model blending is, the setting in xLights does is it allows effects that are, let's say, in one group to be blended with effects from a whole house group. And in other words, if a candy cane's in a candy cane group and that same candy cane is in the whole house group, and you have two effects, the effect that's on the bottom is going to be the most overtaken, but in this empty spaces, the black pixel spaces of that effect, the other effect that's in the group, the all house or the all display group, will also shine through, and it'll blend those two together. Otherwise, if it's disabled or not enabled, the model blending will not allow them, the one effect on the candy canes will shine through, period, because it's down lower and the whole house sequencing is up higher. Oh my goodness. Let me fix my screen here. There we go. YouTube. Poor YouTube doesn't even see this. Nobody said anything. Okay, so next what we'll do is for the folks on YouTube, here's your model dialog. We just talked about these three checkboxes at the top here. I'll go ahead and continue. Next, you have the timing tracks, and the timing tracks are any of the timing tracks that are listed in the sequence. You can see that in this case I have a lyric track here, and then you have various other tracks here that are listed, different things that we use to sequence with, or other sequencers might have used, or the original sequencer created. And by default, xLights will automatically check all of these upon importing for the first time. You can right-click and you can select all, or you can select none. So spoiler alert, whenever you map a sequence one time and you bring some of these items in, if you've already brought in all of these individual timing marks, what will happen is xLights will realize, hey, there's already inside the sequence, if you've mapped one time from here, it'll say, hey, there's this timing track is already listed here. And what it will do is it will say, don't bring that in. And in fact, xLights will do a smart check and see if these are in there. And if they're all in there, it won't try to re-import them over and over again. So you only get every timing track that is one time, and it won't continue to populate every time. So that's a nice feature. Let's see. I think if you leave a checkbox checked upon a second mapping, that it will bring it in a second time, and I think that it auto-numerates it, and it kicks it up to like mapping or mapping 1. We'll call it another number. I think it does that. So onto the new addition that we saw that was added in yesterday, thanks to, I think Keith is the one who added this in. You can see here we have this thing called a search bar that allows you to quickly find things. Now this is nice because it's not only over here on your list of your current sequence, but it's also over here on your list of importing. So if you are mapping a sequence from another sequencer and you need to quickly look for, I don't know, spinner, S-P-I-N. So as soon as I type that in, see what xLights did was it scrolled right down, or it found the closest thing with those letters. And so it helps you. It may not highlight it for you and grab it for you, but at least you know to look down there, and that's where you can begin looking for things. So if I was scrolled down, if the lists were a little bit longer, let's put it this way. Let's not make the list so big, right? So let's say we only had this much room to work with on your little laptop, we'll say. And you wanted to find let's say the all house. So now it took you to the top where you can find the word all. Maybe you want to find snowflake, S-N-O-W. Now it went down here and it found, oh, look here right at the bottom, it says snowflake arms, snowflake rings, snowflakes, and so forth. So these little search bars, they do the same on both here. So if you're trying to do your snowflakes, now you can say, oh, look, there's my snowflakes. I can just type it in, and I can grab my snowflakes, and I can move them over, and now that's mapped, and I'm happy. I can move on. So that's actually a really nice addition. That really does kind of help. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, and we'll go on. Another nice new function that's built into the channel mapping dialog is this effects number. So if you are importing sequences from, let's say, the Google Drive or from our store or from any other vendor, one of the nice things is that you can look at the different models that are available here, and you can see the number of effects that have been sequenced on each individual prop. So if you look at the matrix here, 709 effects on the matrix, 526 on the Megatree. The Megatree Star has 542. That's a lot of effects. That's a lot of sequencing. That's the Peak Star that on the other layout. Presence, there's 416 effects on there. That's probably a pretty relevant programming. There's same's on the mini trees, so maybe those got mapped the same before. And then you can see here snowflake arms. That's pretty busy. That has 117. So this is really nice because you can look there. You can look and say, hey, before this didn't exist, and this wasn't here, and you didn't know. You had no clue how many. So it says singing tree 1, singing tree 2, or singing bulb. Maybe you might know that you only need one effect on those, but oh, you've got your reindeer group. Well, now what you don't know how many effects are on there. Now you can actually tell. Pixel pulse stars. There's only one effect on there. Do you really want to take the time and map it and then realize, oh crap, I don't know what I mapped that to? So you can add. You can choose to select other items that may have more interesting things on them. But also keep in mind that whoever the sequencer was, they may have had a reason for only having so few things in different things. So, for example, the PPD recenter, I don't sequence that a lot. And this one only had 8 effects on it, but it's still part of the sequencing. So if you have that group, maybe you want to pull that in, or you have something you just want to highlight a little bit through the song, there you can see that. So that's a great addition. I really haven't had this. I want to say this is new this year. It may have come out last year, but I really don't remember seeing it when we were mapping for the holiday season. So definitely a great addition. And a spoiler alert, I actually just right before tonight's meeting, I sat down and I did a GitHub request to have this column here. If you click on this column here, I asked for perhaps instead of click on this, add the same column over here, so that perhaps maybe the developers will look at that and say, hey, if this sequence that we're open in, maybe it's already been mapped into before, maybe it can read the number of effects that are already assigned. Maybe that's something that they can do. So you can see what you've already mapped if you map more than one time. Which kind of takes me on to my next point. When you are mapping a sequence, you don't have to map absolutely everything on the sequence all at once this one time. You can come back in and import multiple times. You don't have to do it in one fell swoop. It makes it easier to say, I want to see what my roof outline looks like first, and then I want to see, after I'm done with my roof outline, I want to work on my mini trees, and then I want to add my house verticals, and then I want to add my yard border, and then I want to add this and that, and you can do it one at a time. That might make it easier for you, because then you get to see the full look of what your sequence is going to look like as you do it one at a time. Some people say that some people sequence a little too much, and other people say you can never have enough sequencing. I live in the realm of where I try to sequence enough for everybody, and if there's too much, you get to make the choice of whether you feel like you need to bring in more sequencing. Because let me tell you, it's harder to create more sequencing than it is to not utilize all of it. So if you like it a little bit more thinned out, or a little bit more dark movement in the background, then you certainly have that choice. And that, obviously, what this column helps you with is tells you how many's in something. But you get to choose if you want to bring everything over. You can bring everything over, or you can do one mapping at a time, and that also works as well. So let's go ahead and dive in a little bit into the actual models. So you can see on the left-hand side here, what you'll see is the options to expand different models. So in this instance, we have the 64 mega spinner -1, and this little arrow to the right, this greater than sign. If you click on that, that actually opens down, and whenever you open it down, it gives you the different individual submodels that are built into that model. If you have a sequence that you're mapping from somebody else that has individual submodel effects that are on the individual model, you could take some of those individual effects and now click them and select them and bring them over just for that model. Now, to map, it's really simple. You have a couple choices here. So the first way to map is you can select, let's see, you can select the individual model. Let's see where, oh, I got it backwards here. That's why I was looking down the bottom. Spinners. So we got snowflake arms. We could put them here. You could put snowflake arms on each one of these, and to do that, you just select it one time, and then you can double click over here with your mouse. Just double click and it fills it in for you. Okay, so that's one way that you can map. If you screwed up and you said, oh no, I don't want to put that on there, you just double click again and it puts it back over. Now you saw that you can grab it from over here and you can click and drag. So the double click, if you're already on it, then the double click is nice because you can just continue on, but you can also double click to remove something. So that's a little bit of the functionality. Keep in mind though, as you go through your list and you start graying, things start turning a little bit gray. For example, like there's the snowflake arms, the snowflake rings. Now see how those are grayed out. I'm just grabbing stuff at this point just to kind of see how those are grayed out. Just because they're grayed out doesn't mean that you cannot choose them again. It just means that you've used them once, and you can always go back and continue using the same thing somewhere else even though you've used it in one specific spot. So I'll go ahead and get rid of these. That way you got to see a little bit of the functionality. Another thing too, you might see that some people have mini tree 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll go ahead and scroll down here. Here's the mini trees stars 1 through 8. If you had mini tree stars 1 through 8 over here, and you wanted to and they were in perfect order, let's say like this, you could literally just select this box here. You could use the enter key and you could come over here and you hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And what it did was it went right down the line and right in order, and it enters them automatically for you. So there's no click and drag, there's no double click. If you have that sequential whatever it is that's being imported, you can apply that to the individual model, or you can apply that to the group levels as well. So that's a nice little function. I do use that pretty often whenever I'm doing different things for people. And a couple other things that I want to talk about. So we've kind of talked about you can open up and expand these to look at the submodels. You can apply submodel effects from the imported sequence into yours if you've got submodels set up. The other thing that you can notice is that over here you have two different colors here. Now the specific colors, why you have a blue, why we have a blue color and why we have a black color for the text. The blue color represents a group, and the black color represents an individual model. So that's another important distinction. So whenever you're over here, what's the difference? Well, this icon right here, where is my annotate? Here we go. If you look at this right here, you can see that this here is an all house and it's a group. This here is an all house yard, and it's all because you can tell this icon is what we use in xLights. You can see it over here on the main screen, on the sequence screen. That's the same icon, and that designates that this is a group. So when you're mapping, and you're in, obviously this is the most current version of xLights. When you're mapping, let me get rid of that clear. When you're mapping, that it also will show you, hey, I've got an all house group, and it happens to match up with this over here. It's an all house and it's a group. We can look here. There's no icon telling us that this is the same thing as that is, but xLights is intelligent enough. This was an addition a number of years ago. That you could see that there was a group that you were mapping to. More recently, I want to say this year or maybe last year, xLights became even more intelligent, xLights was able to determine from the sequence that it was importing from what kind of model it was importing from. And in this instance, this is a custom model. So if we were in the Layout tab, you could look up across the models that are listed there, and you could see these icons, and they're the same icons that you might see in your sequence down here. They're also here as well, but I'm not scrolled down on the screen enough for you to see. And you can see that this is a custom model. This here is a tree model. This is a star model. And the rest are custom models. If you had a matrix, there would certainly be a matrix square model there that you could see. And so it kind of helps you visualize, exactly what it is that you're pulling data from to put into your sequence. So it's just another way to kind of make it easy for you. Now, that's in a nutshell. That's pretty much all of the guts of the actual dialog screen. So there's a couple things down below that we can talk about, and they are these buttons that are down at the bottom. We have the OK button, we have a cancel button. The OK button says when you're done sequencing, when you've finally got to the point where you're done and you're ready to apply the changes for the map that you've created, you click the OK button, and then it goes to the next step, which we're going to get to in a minute. Next, you see the cancel button. Let's say you got a whole bunch of things over there and you just wasted a bunch of time. You put everything in the wrong spot. You can cancel. You can also hit the X at the top here to close. They do the same thing. And I think it gives you a warning. Are you sure you want to do this? I'm pretty sure it says that. Next, you have an auto map function. Now, auto map, for the folks who spend a lot of time doing mapping, and when I say a lot of time doing mapping, I'm talking about people who prefer to get their sequences, they're completed, and they just want to map them into their show because they like to build. I'm totally there with you. I like to build too, and if I didn't have to sequence, I'd love to map my own sequences. And I spend a lot of time in this dialog box whenever I do map because I like to customize stuff. And this is the way that you might consider customizing your show. One of the things that is nice about xLights is that you can, if you stick with certain vendors or if you map a lot of similar sequences from similar vendors, you'll notice that many vendors will stick to mostly the same group names. If you build those group names inside your xLights layout, and you build them the same way that the original sequencer builds them, you can use this auto map function, which I'm going to demonstrate for you. But before I do, I'm going to say, if I remember to go back, I'll put a card up here. You can search the YouTube page in YouTube or on the PPD website. The most recent mapping video we did over the summer was the intro or the basics of sequence mapping. And I do kind of talk about this, about how to build your groups, and that's a little bit more focused on that subject. So I want to stick to kind of the main topic, which is the dialogue at this point. The nice function about auto map is, and I'll go ahead and click the auto map right now, and I'm actually mapping from my home layout into the pro layout. So I'm kind of reverse mapping in some instances. And what you can see is a lot of the effects or a lot of the models have been already pre-selected and taken over and applied. Now, if I scroll up and down here, you can see that if it said all house and all house, like my home layout on my true home layout, actually uses the exact same names, the exact same capitalizations and so forth as the pro layout does. Sometimes it will map everything correctly, like here's all roof and all roof, but sometimes it won't. So I see that I probably should update that because that should say capital A, capital L, capital L. That might make a difference. Some instances I think it used to matter. It may not as much so as you can see, but that is something to keep in mind, that if you have the capitalizations exactly from the originating sequence, you can utilize the auto map function. This does take quite a bit of work if you have a large display. Quick plug for the PPD Sequence Club. If you are in the club, we actually do this for our club members. There is a service that we offer that we create the PPD groups for you. You order the service, you send in your layout. it takes a couple days, and we'll turn around and get it back to you so that you can use the auto map function, and that is exactly what I kind of demonstrated for you guys right there. Now, just because you have the auto map and all of the groups are set up perfect, you might find that there's some other things hanging out over here that you want to map over from a sequence. So you have, at this time, you have the ability to go in and begin taking some of the extra things that maybe you didn't auto map and start applying them to things that are something that you want to put into other models that are in your show if you have them and they haven't been mapped to. So auto map is awesome. If you haven't ever used it before, it takes some setup work in your layout, but it's quite worth it. At the end of the season, this saves you a lot of time and frustration for sure. So next we have something called load map. This is we'll do save map first. If you're working with, let's say, a sequence that maybe you're going to do a couple mappings with, it might be helpful if you do like a map. You start mapping and you have a couple over there, a couple effects or a couple models that you've brought over. We'll say, right? You've only done a couple. We'll say. And if you did that, you might want to save the map, and you can physically come in here and come down here and just give it a name like mapping. These are some of my personal ones that I did from 2020, 2022 here, mapping from my PPD to my house. These are all ones that I did, rather recently. I think I did this for the webinar over the summer, but basically this is a way for you to save any of your mapping work so that you can possibly use it in future mappings, which is quite helpful. It saves you time whenever you're trying to create that map or bring in effects from your different vendors, and you can create different maps per the vendor that you're buying your sequences from. Or let's say you have a buddy that is in the hobby and you share your sequence back and forth. You made this sequence and they made that sequence, and you've got two of their sequences. You can create a map just from their house into yours, and that's what this is for. You can come in here and you can call this mapping, and I can say mapping from home to, in this case, it's the PPD Pro layout. And I'll click OK, and it just saved that map. Now it's a very basic file. Now if you had just opened this dialog screen, this is what you could do. You could click load map, and if you hadn't clicked and dragged anything over, you could load a map that you previously had saved, open it up, and it will, well, in this case it said model left matrix not part of the sequence, no mapping channels this model. Yeah. Just an error. Do you want to see future occurrences? I'll just click yes. Okay. So a couple things came over. In any event, that's the load map. It loads up what was on the map. You can save maps and you can load maps. This is incredibly helpful for as you go and do things, you can build on the maps and so forth. Again, there's a lot of really nice little things in here. There's really isn't any hidden secrets that I can think of. If we right click, there's no right click menu over top of the sequence screen where it matches the sequence that you're working in, and there is no right click over top of this column here. Basically, you do have a click and drag system. There's no kind of hidden functionality. The only thing that has the right click mode is up here underneath the timing tracks that I'm aware of. So we can cancel out of here. This is a fail safe. Are you sure you don't want to save your changes for future imports? You can click yes or no. If you click no, it'll stop and it'll say that's whenever you can say, yeah, I want to go back and I want to save this map. If you want to proceed, you just click OK. And what xLights will do, it will say, are you sure you want to exit without saving your current mapping changes for future imports? And you can say, yes, I don't want to save, or I can say, no, I do want to save, come back here, and you can come in and you can save the map again. So this is the mapping dialog all in one fell swoop. There's quite a bit in here, and I honestly never went through any of this in such detail, and I'm wondering if you guys are out there, I don't see any comments in the comment section. Maybe you're just so enthralled with what I'm doing. Go ahead, and if you have any comments, Facebook, YouTube, if you want to jump in, we're going to start the open mic night session and the open Q&A. That is, you are welcome to join us here. If you do have any questions, throw them in chat. We'll go ahead and call it a good evening for you guys. If you like the video, YouTube, Facebook, if you liked it, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't done yet so on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button. We're over, I want to say 4,500 subscriptions now, and 45, maybe it's closing in on 4,600. And so our goal was to get to 5,000 subscriptions. So if you guys just on YouTube want to give us a big thumbs up and subscribe to the YouTube channel, we'd be greatly appreciated. So that's everything from me, guys. Rob, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Nope.
All right, guys, have a wonderful evening.
Amazing.
Say that again.
You sound amazing.
No, do I sound amazing? Aw. I'll take the wins when I get them. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful evening. We will see you in the next video. The next time, take care and bye for now. See ya.